Before taking my first ride on Intimidator, I've been told that it's one of the weaker hypercoasters by B&M. It's a simple out and back layout that we've seen done many times. The ride stats are intimidating, including a height of 232 feet, first drop of 211 feet, max speed of 75 miles per hour with a total track length of 5,316 feet. With a longer staggered style seating like Diamondback and Behemoth, I wasn't convinced of this ride's shortcomings. Not to be confused with Intimidator 305, an ultra-intense coaster at King's Dominion that's all about the speed. Intimidator, a hypercoaster, focuses on sustained floater airtime, which isn't exactly what comes to mind when thinking about racing. Presentation. Dedicated to the late NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt, Intimidator not only serves as the name of this coaster, but a former nickname for the pro racer. The theming of this attraction is basically a memorial to Dale Earnhardt, including a replica of his stock car located near the queue entrance. The trains are designed to look like race cars, more importantly, like Dale Earnhardt's car. The color scheme, which is rather basic with red track and gray supports, still looks nice standing out against the park skyline. Before the train pulls out of the station, an audio recording is played of a man saying,
"Gentlemen, start your engine!"
For those who have been to King's Dominion and have checked out Intimidator 305, the theming and presentation is very similar. However, I do feel it's presented a little better at Carowinds, but it's basically splitting hairs. Presentation earns a score of 8. Ride intensity. When I compare Intimidator to the other B&M hypercoasters, I would argue that it's one of the less intense versions. This would be due to the lack of a high-speed helix, which is usually where riders are pummeled with G-forces. Intimidator does have a helix, but it's after the mid-course brake run, which dramatically slows the train down. The ride starts off with an airtime-filled first drop. Those riding in the back row will be treated to some good ejector airtime. The giant turn to the right manages to deliver a pop of air for the riders up front and a nice whip for those seated near the back. After the turn, the train approaches the first airtime hill, and riders become acquainted why this coaster is also named Intimidator. Yes, the trims come early and hit hard, slowing the train down, eliminating any ejector airtime riders would have experienced. Airtime isn't completely eliminated, just greatly reduced. The coaster now enters its turnaround, followed by another trimmed airtime hill. Just when you started to build back up that speed to create some legendary airtime, the coaster is slowed down. Again, just like the last hill, you still get airtime, just not as intense. The next airtime hill isn't trimmed, but it's basically on par with the last one. The ride now comes to the mid-course brake run, bringing the coaster to a crawl. Intimidator finishes off with a banked airtime hill to the right, followed by an upward spiral that leads into the brake run. I'd have to say that the most intense part of Intimidator is the first drop. The G-forces are pretty strong at the bottom of the hill. However, the rest of the ride is more graceful than forceful. I think a score of 7 for ride intensity is a fair number. Fun factor. B&M has always been notorious for their trimmed roller coasters, and Intimidator is no exception. Every airtime hill has been calculated to deliver floater airtime, and those pesky trims will ensure that no ejector airtime happens. In the same light, you gotta hand it to B&M for designing such precise machines, providing you the perfect result. Could I do with more intense airtime? Of course. Intimidator has the potential to blow other B&M hypers out of the water. Imagine if the trims were turned off, the roller coaster would haul through the first 3 airtime hills, providing epic amounts of ejector. As it stands now, Intimidator is still a fun ride, but every time the coaster hits a trim, a little sad emoji pops up in my mind. Would it be possible for Carowinds to host a coaster event similar to Hollywood Nights, and instead of Voyage with no trims, let's get Intimidator with no trims? Rides in the back row are considerably better than those up near the front of the train. The first drop is best experienced in a back row, outer seat. Up front, the 3 main airtime hills are inhibited more by the trims, as the back of the train manages to sneak in more airtime since they experience more airtime at the end of the hill versus the beginning of the hill where the trims are located. For the amount of complaining I've been doing, I still must admit that Intimidator is a fun roller coaster. That sad emoji only lasts for a quick second because A, I'm on a roller coaster, and B, there's airtime, solid floater airtime. Fun factor gets a score of 8.5. Originality. Intimidator accomplishes what it was created to do, provide solid floater airtime. I would be lying if I said this roller coaster brought something new to the table, because it doesn't, and yet it's not supposed to either. As a coaster enthusiast, I might be disappointed with this roller coaster because it's a been there done that layout, which dare I say is the majority of B&M coasters. When this manufacturer steps out of their traditional mold and provides something new is when they really shine. Just look at the giant coaster right next to it. Intimidator is basically a carbon copy of past hypercoasters, providing all the similar forces you would expect, nothing more, nothing less. It may not wow us in originality, but again, that was never its goal. Intimidator will earn the medium score of 5 in originality. Ride smoothness. This year, I've been on a total of 8 different roller coasters and/or giga coasters created by B&M. For the most part, they're all butter smooth with the occasional rattle. When it comes to Intimidator, it's on par, mostly butter smooth, with a slight rattle that creeps up during the first drop. I never thought the rattle reached the threshold of being uncomfortable, so it's only going to affect the score a minor amount. Ride smoothness gets a score of 9.5. Okay, the final score comes to 7.6, which is considered a decent score. I felt like I've been a little too hard on Intimidator because I still think it's a good roller coaster. For those who cascade this attraction as the worst hypercoaster are clearly forgetting about Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain, Steel Force at Dorney Park. Heck, I even think Intimidator is better than Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure, but that's probably not a popular opinion. As stated already, this ride accomplishes what it set out to do, provide solid floater airtime. My personal score is going to be an 8.5. I don't consider Intimidator to be a top 10 worthy attraction, but with over 275 roller coasters under my belt, Intimidator is easily a top 50 attraction. There are a lot of good things going for it. I haven't talked much about it, but the first drop is a really great moment of the ride. Just like Diamondback, the back row will deliver the best airtime, which is really the only place to experience this coaster. Well, that wraps up today's review. What do you think of Intimidator? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, click on the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe. That way you continue to get great content brought to you by XscreamThrills.